Five, four, three, two, one. And we are live, I think. And I'm actually just trying to see if I can actually stream to Instagram. Um, kind of a bit weird. Is it okay? Apparently I can, and I just clicked on it, and hopefully I should, I think, see something on this end. Okay. Well, anyway, what's up, designers? What's really, really good? Thanks for joining today. There's a bit different vibe with this stream. Think of today's stream as a new slate, a new direction, a new chapter with just me, no guests. And I think you'll get more than 60 glorious minutes of me. Aren't you a lucky bunch? But I will explain more. Let me just put that down. But first, I want to know where you guys are watching from, right? Is it morning? Is it evening? Are you a zombie vampire that doesn't need sleep? God knows I was yesterday. Let me know in the chat and I'll bring you up on screen and say, hey, if I can. Where's that chat button? Okay. Of course, people are rolling in. So, first off, appreciate y'all for being here, for the ones watching. And today's stream is telling you about something I've been working on for the past few months and probably been thinking about it for years. And I am finally ready to share it here live. It's my new brand. It's rectangles. You see that there? There it is. That's what it's called. And very happy to share this with you guys. All right, still working on that intro video and music. Let me know if you guys have any ideas. I just kind of put it together real quick. Riding a bike from a job and watching. Yo, that is some dedication, man. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate you. Okay, cool. So we have someone dropped in on the chat already. That's great. So you might be thinking, Chris, what the hell is rectangles, right? Why the stupid name? What does it even mean? So we'll get to all of that stuff, but I promise that you're not here just to listen to me talk about rectangles. That probably happens in your job way too much. I want to share my thinking process behind building this brand with the name, with the visuals, and the new website that I want to show you guys. And hopefully you can remix some of the stuff and kind of put it into your own process. Plus, I'll be giving away some freebies for everybody watching today. So just want to say again, welcome to today's stream and welcome to Rectangles 001. And for this launch live stream, I partnered with Pitch. Pitch is the presentation workspace that helps you collaborate and create, deliver winning slide decks. I use Pitch for literally every single presentation, public talks, internal meetings, course content, free downloads that you guys are going to get from watching this today, and even the presentation I'm about to show you during this live stream. That's right. I'm going to put out the slides today, baby, which I don't usually do because I prefer this sort of casual conversation. But you deserve the slides today, and I want to walk through that. Also, want to tell you guys that Pitch, mute that real quick, just launched Pitch Agent, an AI assistant built right into Pitch. 3 things I think you guys would love about Pitch Agent. It's actually on brand. You know, like most AI tools, just retheme generic layouts of your colors and fonts. Pitch Agent actually builds from real templates with fully customizable layouts. And your decks actually look on brand and not like anyone else's. You can actually chat to your deck. I think this was really cool. Like ask it questions, get feedback, pressure test the story. I didn't have time to do that today, but I wish I would because I'm going on and on with the slide deck that I showed you. But like you can literally ask it like, what's the 30-second pitch here? And it would give you that instant answer. So if you are, let's just say, doing a talk or something, that 30-second pitch would be really good to share it with the event organizers. And I'd even like draft you follow-up emails based on your deck. Again, everything is fully editable, unlike lots of other tools out there when they just generate it and you're like, what's going on here? You can generate fast, then refine slide by slide. Or you can split a dense slide, merge it, swap images, all by chatting to it. And you're never really stuck what the AI agent gave you. So that's really, really cool. Um, so you can scan this QR code right above me here to try Pitch Agent. Again, they just announced it today, so it literally dropped like an hour ago. Everybody can go use it and go try it. Pitch is trusted by 4 million teams already. Again, leaving this here or go to pitch.com to actually try it for yourself. Okay, I have a comment here. Someone just said, rectangles. Okay. Sweet. Yeah. That's what I mean. Okay. So later in the show, I'll be sharing free resources I made in Pitch. And you can go ahead and like duplicate this and use it for yourself, right? Three things I'll be sharing towards the end of the show is portfolio presentation deck. So how you actually present work during a job interview, the design agency sales deck, how to pitch your services as a freelancer. One, like a deck I actually used to sort of close my first client in like 10 days. And the third is the personal brand blueprint, how to stand out online as a designer. Sort of the first module of a course. All these are completely free, of course. And I'll tell you more about that later. And I'll appreciate the folks for coming on. I mean, we have Vay from my team coming on. Appreciate you. And we have, of course, Mia from the team coming on as well. Yes, one on LinkedIn and one on YouTube. All good to see. Thanks for joining, guys. So, I want to get back to our conversation today. Rectangles 001. Okay, I always like to start anything off and just kind of tell you the why, right? Let's just start with the why. What, like, obviously I'm announcing this new brand, but why am I doing it? Okay, so outside of running UX Playbook, I create a lot of content, blogs, live stream, LinkedIn videos, videos like this, whatever, all the stuff, right? There's literally something being published every single day across like all channels. Then the realization kind of hit me. I don't really run a product company that makes media. I actually run a media company that happens to make products, right? And let me tell you the difference. A product company, the content exists to serve the product. Every newsletter, every LinkedIn post is acquisition, retention for something people pay for. So that was like, I guess, how we started. For a media company, the content is the business, sponsorship, partners, subscribers, all that stuff. And it turns out in the past sort of 18 months, media has been doing all the heavy lifting. And I've also come to despise the fact or despise the notion of creating content. And then for that, like when you do that, you have to treat people like leads. I just didn't want to think like that anymore. And I think that ongoing, I would rather think about how I serve designers, you guys, better with better content that's absolutely free, right? I'll figure out that monetization through brands like the folks that actually have unlimited budget. Shout out to the partners. But I think that's a win-win for everyone. So I embarked on this journey to put the newsletter, this live stream, sort of into one media brand. And that's why rectangles exist, right? it's a different brand from UX Playbook, right? It's one media focused brand. And it's like, again, different from UX Playbook in terms of education slash product company. This is a media company that happens to make products or might make products in the future. Haven't committed to anything yet, but it's kind of a fresh start for me and my flag in the ground. I mean, this all sounds great on paper, but execution was far from easy, actually. We had a few folks coming in. Rectangles is a nice name. Thank you. And I'll actually be talking about like how I came up with it or like what it means to me because it's cool that people are already saying it's a nice name. Yeah, thank you so much for that. But yeah, like at first thought about kind of this media thing or a new brand more than like a year ago, and I was procrastinating, struggling, and basically taking my sweet ass time with this rebrand. I had been teasing it, made videos, wrote written posts, spoke about it numerous times to numerous people, and then even my team was like, "When the hell is it going to get done?" And I'm like, "Ooh," and I guess the question I had for myself was like, why am I still not making any meaningful progress? Right? That was something I was really struggling with, and I wanted to share this to start with because I think a lot of us sort of struggle with this as well. And if you're struggling to start something, hopefully this will kind of unblock you, this kind of story, and lessons I learned from struggling. And if you're going through a feeling of like, I want to do this, but I haven't started, let's get into it. I think the first reason I was struggling was this act of like creating for yourself. Like every designer, every founder, or anyone who creates for themselves is probably been through some of these feelings, right? For some reason, it's easier to create for others, but actually fairly hard to create for yourself. So, like, I mean, there's so many examples, but it's easier to create for others because limited timelines, social accountability, people relying on you so they can move forward. Maybe you're blocking someone, so there's that social pressure and element to it. You're also getting paid, so you're keeping the lights on. Maybe recognition, you get a pat on the back, so you do it. Again, so many reasons of why you might get that shit done, but you don't get your own shit done. And but when it comes to our projects, what really happens, like anxiety, not feeling good enough, judgment from our peers, all that negative Nancy stuff, negative self-talk with an unhealthy dose of imposter syndrome sets in. All right, spam the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Quiet today, guys. I know there's a bit of lag, but that's definitely that feeling that I felt and I felt victim to. And for folks going through this right now or have done it in the past, absolutely normal. I think by trusting yourself, your skills, and the work you put in or will put in to figure it out really helps. And again, just a kind reminder to yourself goes a really long way sometimes of like, hey, this is kind of normal. I'm making stuff for myself. Okay, cool. Negative self talk aside, let's put that down. I guess the second reason that I was struggling to start and I procrastinated for so long is that I have what I call the creator's dilemma. You probably have your own dilemma, but let me talk about this one real quick. So I've been publishing on the internet since May 2022. That's 4 years, every single day. And sometimes you feel like you're on this like hamster wheel, right? The analogy is like you're an artist, but you're trying to make a hit song every single day. It just gets kind of exhausting after a while. So things I started to think when I was consider building a new brand was like, well, how do I make more of what I love? Like, how do I keep being creative? Day in, day out. How do I cater to you guys, designers, without sort of losing myself in the process? Because it's really easy to listen to the algorithm and feed it what it wants without you actually wanting it. You're just making the same shit over and over again. And then like you naturally think about like, do I go wider, appeal to other designers outside of tech, to creative industry as a whole, to entrepreneurs, etc., etc. Right? So, what does my brand even need to say to them? Like, I think one of the things is like, how do I go from consistency and quantity to more like differentiated quality and things that I enjoy making? And it's because I'm transitioning from this place of UX playbook that is known to something that is new and uncertain, this other new brand, media brand. I was asking a lot of tactical questions without really figuring out like the bigger picture of why I wanted to do it. And I guess this is similar to someone like transitioning in their careers or making a giant leap into something else, or switching to a new type of role, like an IC, individual contributor, to a manager. You know, things are slash will be different, right? We fear the unknown. We start painting a picture of the worst case scenarios, very standard. But what helped me only is not to really worry about the tactical, but only to worry about the tactical if I needed to solve a specific problem that blocks me, right? Like momentum really helped quiet this noise. And, you know, you'll turn each stone when you get a chance to do that versus sometimes we feel like turning all the stones at once. So we absolutely sure what we're getting ourselves into. So if you're asking like too many tactical questions before even diving into this new endeavor or this new thing, just try to step back, ask some bigger picture questions, get started, and then let momentum be your fuel to solve that next problem. Okay. So that's the second thing I learned. And then the third thing is a big one. And it goes a bit deeper, which is identity, right? And this is probably the root cause of not launching something for a year and thinking about it and thinking about it, but not doing anything about it, right? So I'm a designer, a founder, a creator. So my work is my life. Pretty sad, I know, but it is. But my identity was like so wrapped up in what I do, that not necessarily every piece of work I put out there is wrapped up, but like as a whole, right? Like it as a holistic kind of view. So I live and breathe design. It's my passion. It's why I got into the industry at 27, which is quite late compared to some. And I think a lot of designers sort of feel the same way of they didn't get into the industry for the cash monies. They didn't dream about fancy car just by moving pixels. Like we like the craft, we like the nuanced thinking around our field, and of course the aesthetics, right, that we enjoy. So when I'm thinking about starting fresh, designing my own brand, I want to take it super seriously. But like then inherently that's super daunting and pretty damn scary. Hey, Chris Miller, what's going on? Thanks for sharing up, man. Appreciate this. I will have a point, guys. I just wanted to tell you like how I felt like throughout this whole process, and what blocked me. But I appreciate you coming on. Yeah. So like again, designing basically your fresh identity, your whole identity, especially being a creator, is usually boiled down to one or two visual touch points on the internet that basically sums you up, right? It's literally the first impression. It's kind of like deciding an outfit to wear for life. Um, like one outfit. Okay, maybe a bit dramatic, but feeling was real at that point. And that pressure of like making a statement, that pressure of like, this is Chris, here's me, here's what I stand for, and fundamentally hoping people will like it, right? So go from someone who didn't know anything about design to like becoming a full-time designer, then leading a large team of designers, then experimenting with my own products and being a creator, and then eventually sort of identifying as a founder. I think a lot of that thing just got me confused and it just came together at once. So there was like a paradox of choice, analysis paralysis, and too much to do. So I basically don't do any of it. Felt like that before? Okay. Good. At the same time, it's like reconciling with, am I a founder? Am I, a designer? Am I a creator? Am I a design founder? Am I running a creator business? It's like yes to all of that above, like, but it was like muddling my identity, not sure what I'm leaning into, and fundamentally, I guess, what do I want out of life, or how do I see the next 5 years going? I don't know. You know, I call it a midlife crisis disguised as a rebrand. Slight exaggeration, maybe, but it is what it is, right? So there's one thread throughout all the three struggles that my brain was like, um, yeah, my brain was basically avoiding the scary things, and the result of it was lack of action and procrastination. Right? Again, I'm going to say that again. Procrastination is our brains psychologically avoiding the scary things. Of course, this is common knowledge by now, and it's obvious when you see it in other people. But somehow I had to relearn that lesson, probably for like the fifth time. But I had to like observe myself, listen to my brain, and be like, that's the biological defense mechanism at work. And it's probably not that all the negative self talk is true. It's just me protecting myself. And once I understood that, I could make way more meaningful progress. And writing, of course, helped a lot in this process as well. I don't think I shared that anywhere else. Probably this is the first time. But anyway, I wanted to share this because I've spoken like throughout these years of writing online, I've spoken to so many people that struggle with this, right? Maybe it's finding a new job, maybe it's learning a new skill, maybe it's starting a side project or starting a business, maybe it's relocating to a new company or country, maybe it's reinventing yourself, whatever it is, right? Every person I know that's managed to do something new, scary, and amazing had to get over the same hurdles I just spoke about, right? Creating from themselves, whatever that means for them, dealing with their own dilemmas, right? And then potentially even dealing with their own identity confusion, like literally everyone. So, just a reminder, your thoughts are not always on your side. Act accordingly, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, I just wanted to start on that note. A bit different than usual. And I promise this is going to be actionable for you guys. But yeah, wanted to start on that. Not every rainbow, like not everything is rainbow and butterflies. And at the beginning of every story, this is what it really sounds like. It only sounds great when you're at the end of it, right? Okay, cool. So after fiercely reflecting, and this is where I try to share my screen. Let's hope this works. Right. Okay. Feels like you can see that now. Where am I here? Okay. I have a clicker for you today. So after like fiercely reflecting, I decided I wanted this brand to reflect those three different sides because I just couldn't, I guess, reconcile that stuff. So I was like, okay, it's got to be kind of like me, right? As a designer, I love aesthetics. I admire, brands that I love out there, and it has to be a space of like evolution of taste as well, right? And the ability to be flexible in lots of different mediums like video, digital, maybe even print or physical goods. And then as a creator, have space for personal interests, experimentation, products offering, and the ability to grow as the creator economy grows and I grow. Then as a founder, something I or my team can replicate, or some kind of system so we're not left always creating things from scratch. And I guess this is not just a rebrand of a company. It's kind of like a rethinking and reinvention of what I do. Like, who is Chris? What does he stand for? How what is the story being told, and how can he help others, right? With that said, we basically started, well, I started with thinking about the name. um, Caveat here, if you're thinking about, like, let's just say starting a side project or starting um, freelancing, you don't need a name off the bat. This is just the rabbit hole I went through. Again, I had a year to think about this. Okay. And I would way prefer if you just ran to your first client and just said, hey, this is what I do. And that's about it. And then you can kind of backfill in the story and the name and all that stuff. But if you haven't done it before, that is. But because I've done this before, I'm like, okay, I want to sit down and really think about it. And it's basically, ooh, does this work? Okay, here, the clicker works. One umbrella for the live stream again, the newsletter, and things I want to make in the future. It's a design media company. Had a few constraints, right? Two combo words. Yeah, that's okay. Obviously, I would prefer one word. No dot coms. Or dot coms are not necessarily. If I could find one, great. But usually, it's really hard to find a dot com unless it's a made up word. No saturated brand names like Signal. Something that designers would resonate with. Like I had some of these constraints because I think it's really healthy to start off with them. So instead of going through the standard way we brainstorm of how like designers usually do it, I actually try to find how other professional naming firms actually get their ideas. And I found the first of three frameworks that I'm going to share around naming. This is Luna, that's how you pronounce that, Luna's playbook of how to generate names. And there's basically like three phases. So if you're ever going through this exercise for your company or for a feature, for a product, this is actually quite interesting. So first is you've got to map the landscape. You got to list like the competitors and how they name their things to make sure that you're not just like copying them, right? And this also helps you decide what you're not, which is one of the most important part of the processes. So, for example, if you're a new fintech, you do not want to be a pay something that's already taken PayPal. Okay, so the constraint is to create a fuel. I also had my constraints, but I like that these guys thought of uh, deciding what you're not. And then phase two is find the ultimate benefit. So like you can go from like feature to functional benefit, emotional benefit, and then what the ultimate benefit is. Um, they say that great names name what it means. Okay, quite fuzzy there, but I guess an example here is Lexicon famously looked uh, at fiber for digestion of like, okay, that's a benefit. And they went all the way up that sort of ladder I just named and said, huh, if we position it differently of like feeling lighter, right? Instead of fiber for digestion. And then because you're thinking about the ultimate benefit, new ideas surface, right? So it's like the reframing of like what this thing is and what it can do. Then the third thing is treasure hunt. And this is the fun thing. So again, this is what designers do really well is generate way more that feels reasonable, right? Luna actually just targets like 300 names, but Lexicon, another great name for a naming company, goes for somewhere between like 2,000 to 2,500 names just to start off with as their like list, which is absolutely insane. And I'll tell you how many I did. Um, but a few tactical things to go when you're going through this process is you got to figure out where the tension zone is versus the invisible zone. So their playbook, they want you to think about polarization equals energy, right? There's a famous story of Andy Grove, the CEO of Intel, that approved the name for his chip or his processor called Pentium. And because internally people were like, I hate it, I love it, I hate it, I love it. So that polarization actually pushed him over the edge to decide on that name. And I think I'm probably dating myself here. Who here remembers the Pentium processor? Tumbleweeds. Nobody. Oh my God. Y'all so young. Okay. Anyway, so the next sort of tactical advice here, if you're going through this process, is approximate thinking. Like sit with like half-formed ideas, weird ones, almost bad ones. like the middle zone between like obvious and absurd. That's kind of the sweet spot. And again, don't judge it too early. You're just going through it. Yes, Chris, you know Pentium, good man, Pentium processor. God, that brings me back. Anyway, okay, sound symbolism. This one is super super interesting. Okay, hard consonants like K, T, P feel really, really sharp in a brand's name. And then versus like softer sounds like LMS feel smooth. But did you know that V is the most aggressive sounding letter in the English language, which is really interesting. So, for example, Vercel, Vimeo, Venmo, apparently that's like really aggressive sounding. And I was like, wow, I've never thought about it like that. Chris remembers Pentium. It was a neat name. It was a neat name at the time. Yeah, Pentium. That sounded like, I don't know, really professional and kind of, yeah, kind of cool. Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for coming. All right, so where was I? Yeah, and then I think the final one is really interesting. Where's my clicker? Here we go. Surprisingly familiar. The best names feel like words that already existed. So like made up words that are like invented but phonetically obvious. So remember when I said soft sounds? So these words, Swiffer, Spotify, like they're invented, but like you're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then another one, the hard sounds, which is Kodak. That is a made up word, but it's yeah, it just sounds really interesting. It almost sounds like it's like clicking. The camera is clicking. Kodak. Like, how cool is that? Again, I my mind was blown when I found this, and I was like, obviously, it's really hard to kind of think of that, but I thought that was something really interesting to share. So basically, I was like generating names. So I started like throwing all the random names I had into Claude, right? I probably had around, I would say like 80 or so, and here's like majority of them. Oh, cheers from Brazil. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. A lot of folks on YouTube. The stream is definitely more reliable, so shout out. But yeah, I had like yeah, again, brain dumping, just getting as many things out as possible, and then I decided to like categorize them to help me like figure out like what do I like, and I like names like solution or like progress language orientated, like entry point, or like the unnames, like the work that didn't happen type thing, like untitled, like kind of a blank slate, or the designer native one. Again, entry point is one of them, but this overlapped with like artifact or variant, which was quite cool. Again, quite aggressive, I guess. Or design conversational phrases or inside a product language like edge case, workshop metaphors, workbench. Really like that name, workbench. Um, and then maybe like interface vocab, sidebar was one that I was like, oh god, sidebar. What about open tab? What about new tab? Like, I was like, oh my god, these are so cool. I was on a roll. Argentina here, yes. What's up? And then some like two-word combos. Like I really like how creator science, like kind of unexpected mishmash of like that was really cool. But I also found that each category, like workshop metaphors, felt a bit warm, but kind of a bit generic, right? Interface vocab, like if I'm calling my brand like variant or something like that, or sidebar is like, is it a tool? Is it a software? Design phrases typically were too long to even like to brand and too complicated. And then two-word combos had like I think the most personality, but like sometimes it was hard to land it cleanly. So it was like it just didn't feel right. And I think that's also one of the things that you have to realize, right? So, 3 or 4 weeks, and still nothing really stood out to me. I spent a long time on this, probably more in terms of like this process at that time was 3 to 4 weeks, but again, been thinking about it for almost a year. So just a running document of names and things I'll notice. Um, I was kind of using my gut to judge what's a good name or not. Then I randomly was listening to a creator science podcast, shout out, and then found the two other frameworks uh, that I'm going to be speaking about. And it's from Alexandra Watkins. And her name for her brand is Eat My Words. It's her naming company. So it's pretty cool. And two sort of frameworks that I found from her, Smile and Scratch. And I want to go through the acronym because I find this really, really interesting to how to judge a good versus a bad name. So obviously, Smile is a good thing, Scratch is not. And I think let's just go through Small. And I want to play a game with you guys because I find myself playing this game when I went through this. And Smile, let's just talk about it real quick. Is the name sticky test or not? Right? Basically, is it memorable? So the 5 qualities you want all 5 to hit if you think you've got a banger of a name. Okay. All right. So let's play this game. I'm gonna go through each of these, and you're gonna think of what brands out there have this type of positive quality that makes it a good brand name. Any brand, whatever. Just shout it out. No wrong answers here. Okay. So suggestive is the first one. Hints at something positive about the brand without describing it literally. Have you got any names? I'll warm us up. Okay. So I will again flash these. So Amazon suggests that it's vast, right? The Amazon rainforest. It's just like never ending, sort of like rich things, right? And that's probably what Amazon is. It's like never ending, unlimited resources type thing. Then we have Oracle. Oracle's a brilliant name. It's suggestive in a way that's like ancient wisdom, prophecy, knowing things, right? For like an old school tech company, hell yeah. And then another name I love is Patagonia, right? And the brand itself I love, but I think the name also helps. Suggests it's rugged, wild, ends of the earth type travel company. Like that is really cool. So if you've got any suggestives uh, in terms of brand names, throw them at me. But I'll move on. Memorable. Okay, this is like when you're anchored in something already that your audience or your customers or people already know. Like it's familiar, but it's in a fresh use. So, can you guys think of any names that are extremely memorable? Drop them in the chat if you can. But I will give you a couple. This is a classic one, which is Apple, right? It's kind of like A for Apple, kind of the most famous object on Earth. Isaac Newton's Apple, but it's like attached to a computer company, right? Something natural, but what a tech company? So it's familiar, but in a new use. And then the other, of course, is BlackBerry. Everybody knows the fruit, and it's a phone company. So it's like very, very interesting how these names kind of stick in our heads. Again, throw me some memorable names if you have any, and I'll keep going through. The next is imagery. Um, Imagery is also creating like a picture in someone's head because they'll remember that way more than like random syllables, right? Like perfect imagery, these ones are crazy. So like when I was kind of looking at examples of brands out there that have perfect imagery names, holy crap, these ones I can't believe I didn't like. It's just not even obvious until you say it. Do you know who these are? All right, I'm not gonna hold it on forever. Red Bull. This is so good. It's literally a Red Bull, but like you can picture the red, the aggressive, the bull, like energetic, right? It's somehow not to picture a red bull. And then Stripe, right? The payments company is literally named after the stripe or the magnetic stripe on a credit card. It's visual, it's functional, so cool, right? And then Shell, the petroleum company, you literally see a shell, and then the logo is actually also a shell, right? That fossil connotation of where oil comes from, like so amazing. The next one is a bit harder. Um, it's called legs, and it basically extends your name to like a whole ecosystem of things. So like taglines, products, copy, identity, events. Legs again is the hardest quality because it doesn't really reveal itself until after the name has been used for a while. And the example here is again, click Mailchimp. Freddie is the chimp, right? And it's the old identity, the illustration style, um, everything flows from the chimp. So like it's created like an ecosystem and legs, like infinite kind of theme abilities that you can play off on different things, which I found very interesting too. And then the last one, and wicked examples on this one, is emotion. How does the name make people feel? Is it curiosity? Is it recognition? Is it a smile? Like, what is it? How do you make people feel with just words? Okay, and here's an example I really love. The first one is okay, we've covered it, but no worries. The first one is liquid death. It's literally water in a can. And like when I first heard about it, I was like, what the hell? But it like makes people laugh, right? Liquid death, but it's just water. Great emotional response. The second example I have is Cards Against Humanity, right? Who doesn't want to play a game like that? You want to play Cards Against Humanity? Like that's crazy. And then finally, which we've covered again with the QR code, scan that QR code for pitch, is Tinder. Tinder's a great name, right? The spark before the fire. It's a little bit dangerous, a little bit thrilling, kind of perfect for a dating app. Tinder, what a great name. But if we talk about pitch again, that's like our sponsor of this. That's actually a really, really good name. When I first heard about pitch, I was like, okay, I know exactly what it is, right? So it really hits two high scales on this, and it's suggestive and memorability. If we just look at the word pitch, right, it's suggestive in the fact that the word is also the use case. Like you pitch ideas, you pitch your investors, you pitch clients, and the tool helps you to build the thing you pitch with. So there's like zero translation required, and the verb the customer is already using. Super smart. And then lastly, memorable. It's one syllable. It's in everyone's vocab. It's used in business context. So you hear it once, and you got what the company does. Like that's how a good name can really hit the right notes. And pitch.com, like bravo, not just because you're a sponsor, but because it's actually a genuinely good name. But really, like how you're supposed to use this like tactically is you need to like run your shortlist through some sort of point system for it to be like 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, whatever, right? So you can actually start ranking what's hitting on the imagery, what's hitting on the emotion, suggestive, etc., etc. But honestly, suggestive, memorable, and imagery kind of overlap a lot in practice. And the two that does the real work is legs. Again, after the brand has been used for a while, and sort of the emotional or the feeling that you can kind of bring once the name is like said out loud. Um, and yeah, it's like you don't want to name a product. You want to name uh, your product a brand, or at least like aspire to that. And I think brand building is this kind of world building and law building exercise, and this kind of framework really helps to sort of articulate some of that stuff. Okay, wow. Have I been streaming for this long? God damn it. Okay, time flies. Clearly I'm a bit of a name geek now, which I love. All right. So we talked about smile. How can you like names that are sticky and why they're sticky? Let's talk about scratch. This is like the kill list, right? So these are like 7 deal breakers. One violation is too many, and it stops people from like kind of falling in love with bad ideas because you can give them a reason why you want to cut that name, and that's good. And obvious one, spelling challenge. If people can't spell it, that's not good. 2 examples here: Krispy Kreme, right? K for crispy, K for cream. Like, oh my god, it's iconic, but it still violates this rule. Like 2 deliberate misspellings for no good reason. Okay. The next one, the next one is like Haagen-Dazs. Apparently, it's a made-up fake Scandinavian name with a umlaut um, in it, and like it's been around for 60 years. But tell me if you can spell Haagen-Dazs like blindfolded. Like, it's just not possible. The other thing is obviously you don't want to copy others, but trademark conflicts always happen with name. 2 really famous example is, did you know Meta's Threads actually was the name of another company called Threads. In 2023, they had to kind of like get the like secure the rights because another Threads app was like kind of like a Slack adjacent company was using about like comms. So like there was a whole like kerfuffle around that. Then I like this one, which is in like 1971, Burger King wanted to go to Australia, and Burger King was already taken in Australia. Someone else had owned it. So guess what? They just named the brand Hungry Jack's because the guy's name was Jack. So a global brand like neutered because of one trademark filing. So like if you ever see Hungry Jack's, that's Burger King. Yeah. And shout out to my burger enthusiasts out there. Thailand over here. Yo, what's going on? Nice. Okay. So the next thing is restrictive. Like this is like, does the name box you in to like a format, a city, a niche that you outgrow? And this was surprising. Did you know Apple computers, uh, like Apple used to be Apple Computer Inc. And they had to drop the computer for obvious reasons because they were getting into music, phones. So like even the GOAT of all brands did something wrong by calling it Apple Computers. And maybe it's okay to kind of like your brand name evolves over time. But again, we're trying to be purposeful on the first step. And then KFC, right? Previously called Kentucky Fried Chicken, but they try to escape Kentucky. It's limiting, it's local, and fried, the unhealthy connotation. So Kentucky Fried Chicken rebranded or renamed themselves to KFC. Um, and then who actually remembers what the company Backrub did or what Backrub is now? This was a while ago. This was in 1995, 96. So Backrub became Google. Yes, the founders actually called the product Backrub, right? Like it's weird. It sounds like a spa. Like then they renamed it to Google, and that potentially is why they took off. Imagine backrub being like the verb we use. Can you just backrub it? That's weird. Okay. The next thing's like annoying. Like weird punctuation, numerals, like anything you'd spell 1,000 times. Your brand will just compound friction, right? Like because you like your users have to spell it, you have to spell it, they have to Google it, all that stuff, or they have to backrub it. So famous examples here: Toys R Us. The backwards R in quotation marks, and it's a capital R, right? Like that's crazy. Even though again iconic but hard. 7-Eleven. Okay, and why is 7-Eleven a bad name, or how have they written it? So it's the number 7 hyphen and the word 11, right? Like that's so much cognitive load if I wanted to spell it. So like again, every special character, numeral or capitalization is kind of like an ongoing friction point. You don't want your name to be like a future liability. You want to name your brand for what you, not what you are today, but what you want to become, right? I found a couple here. I like this one, tame. Oh god, so many tame names out there where it's like flat. It's a bit more descriptive, maybe like solutions, strategy, insights, something solutions, something strategy, something insights, right? And it's like it's kind of like the most common one, and it kind of makes the brand a bit invisible. The best example here I found, which I didn't know, is what does IBM stand for? Does anybody know? What does it actually stand for? International Business Machines. What? That's actually what IBM stands for. So like that is like some generic ass name. Um, an example is like General Electric or General Motors, like GE, GM. They had to abbreviate similar to IBM. And then one is interesting, which is curse of knowledge. Like this is where like only insiders get it. Obscure references, inside jokes. So um, the examples I have here is like Vercel used to be called Zeit, right? It's a German word for time, and kind of nobody knew that. Nobody could spell it. SEO was a bit tragic. So Zeit, I think, um, partnered with Lexicon or another naming firm, and they came up with the word Vercel, which is real cool. NASA. Yeah, what does NASA mean? That's a good one. That is a good one. Is that a good name or a bad name? Huh. Oh, it's the abbreviation, right? Yes. It's the flat. Okay. Pretty tame, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. But it's funny how a name sticks over time. But yeah, exactly. That yeah. Okay. Another interesting. What do you guys know what Asana means? Like we know the product company, like the software company. But what does it mean? Again, it's this curse of knowledge, right? It's a yoga pose, and most people don't have an idea. I certainly didn't. And yeah, like to know that. Like I guess it's for like tranquility of using their software. Uh and then okay, this one's cool. Hulu. This is under curse of knowledge because Hulu in Mandarin means interactive recording. And that's actually why they called Hulu Hulu. What the hell? Like, so it's if you have to explain the meaning is like failing. Insider knowledge is a tax on everybody's mind, even though it might come with really cool words like Zeit, Asana, Hulu. But if people don't get it, like it kind of defeats the purpose. Okay. I don't know what Google means. I think it's probably a made up word. Again, but it's leveraging the sound, I think, more than anything. And then of course, like the obvious one, if it's hard to pronounce, right? Okay, you know the car company. Like if things can be said in multiple ways, right? The car company Hyundai, or was it Hyundai? Was it Hun like Hyundai? Like apparently they ran an ad to teach the pronunciation of their name. Again, it's a hard one. Okay, but I guess one of the famous ones is it Porsche or Porsche? Don't know. And lastly, probably the one that you use the most in terms of saying it, is it GIF with a hard G or is it GIF with a soft G? GIF. I think the inventor of that actually said it was GIF and not GIF. But again, very hard. So The whole point of using uh, sorry, scratch is really that list again, the kill list, right? But we want to do scratch actually before we do smile in terms of if we are talking about a process, because it's like you want to have your kill list, then you want to rank, right? You don't use this kill list to rank. You say if it violates one of these rules, it's gone. And again, you have, let's just say you have thousands of ideas. This makes it a lot easier. All right. And again, kill list. So just to recap, I do have a lot of other stuff to be showing, but I think this is going to be record timing in terms of how long this live stream is. So spam the chat if you're still with me. Naming pipeline. How would you put this into a process, right? So first, you'll use Luna as Luna's playbook as a generator to come up from a blank page all the way to like 300 names, right? With real range on like not just a feature, all the way to like the ultimate benefit and anything in between, right? Weird and wonderful exploration. Then you use Scratch as the filter. So this basically kills like 80% of your list because it probably violates something in the list, right? And then finally, you use Smile as the ranker because you're assigning a numerical value to each of the acronym, the words, and that should tell you which one you want to do. Of course, it also depends on how it feels to you. That was a lot. I think I just spoke about an hour on like naming. Holy crap. So, questions, chat. I want to go back to the story of like names I genuinely thought about and why, and then we can go. Uh, it's insane how much goes. I know, like I never knew this. I never knew it was a thing, and that's why there's like professional naming companies. Obviously, one is called Lexicon, the most famous one. I'm also bewildered and befuddled. Like, yeah, it's just crazy, 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 crazy. Okay, so let's just keep going. If you guys are all good with this, all right. So back to the story. I had 4 names that I genuinely liked through going through this process, and like the margin, friction, it depends, and unstuck. Right? Again, like 1 word is good, 2 words okay, right? And I mentioned all the categories I went through. So like I like the margin because it has like rich visual territory, and it means like the negative space like in the margins, and like you can kind of think about how work happens in the margins or commentary happens in the margins, but it felt like a bit too old school and publication-y, like something I inherited versus like I founded. And it also feels like the Washington Post. It feels like a very serious publication. So I'm like, nah, that's probably not for me. But I did like that name in general. Um, then I thought about friction. That's quite cool. Like it's clean, easy to spell. It's a bit philosophical. The domain was also available. That's also important if it's ownable. Um, but it's not surprising and is almost too serious. It kind of can be like a tool, like Notion, like Friction, or like just didn't feel very media. Then this one I really loved, and I still might use it for something, but it depends. The most I think, like we say it all the time, right? Designers say it all the time, but can it actually be a name of a brand? Like it might be a great email subject or um, book or something like that, but for a brand, right? I think it has the wrong energy to stick your flag in the ground, especially if you want to build something like opinionated and differentiated. It depends, kind of says like, somewhere in the middle, dude. It's like, I don't know if I want that stance to come off in a name. Uh, then unstuck, like really like that, like unstuck. Like again, that K hard sound, really like that. However, it is emotional. It is broad. So you can do a lot of it. You're not boxing yourself in, but it skews kind of like self-helpy, right? And it didn't really feel like designer native. Like maybe Mark Manson would like Unstuck. Famously, he has the podcast Solved, great bloody name. But Unstuck would probably be somewhere there too. Um, Someone says, I only knew the one word is good, two is okay thing, and it's usually better if it's memorable, better if it has personality. Yes, that's right. Follows up by saying, isn't it better if a name that doesn't feel media in a media industry stand out, have person? Yes, yes, I agree with you. It has to be surprising of nature. The margin felt very media. The friction didn't. But again, I don't like. I think it has to feel right with you as well. Even if you're going through all this like logical kind of way to rate it and stuff, fundamentally, I want to share like kind of a test I did for myself that it is maybe a bit subjective, but another way you could run through like naming. But you're quite right. It shouldn't. It doesn't necessarily have to fit in the industry, and it might be more personality if you don't do that. So yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah. So I basically couldn't decide. Like these names, uh, did it feel right? Honestly, I liked them, but I didn't love them. Right? I would say them over again in my head, da, 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 da. And then so I get, like all designers, one day just jamming in Figma, doing some stuff, and I looked to my like layers panel, and I was like, "Ooh, rectangle 721." I don't remember exactly what the number was, but I did see the word rectangle, right? And I was like, "Huh, I wonder if it's available." And also, should it be rectangle or should it be rectangles, right? So immediately, what I always do is I want to check the competition through the dot coms, right? And yes, they were taken, but is it taken on all the other sort of domains and stuff like that? And you'll know that if people sort of sit on domains and park themselves on domain, it's usually because that name means something in an industry or it's very sought after, right? So, and then I thought, oh, rectangles.com, sorry, .fm is available. And as I was thinking about the word rectangles, this kind of sort of popped into my mind where it's like the classic joke of my PM friend always says, you spend all day drawing rectangles, dude. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I do, right? I mean, it's absurd, but it's also on point at the same time. And if I try to think about it, every interface starts as a rectangle. Like the metaphor is it's the literal starting point of the thing that you're doing. And again, going back to the rebrand, like the rethinking, and restarting, starting fresh. And then the second thing is like it's the reduction of complexity in the world of tech and software building and design, right? Where it's just like takes it down to simplicity and something that simple in one word for me was like super attractive. So of course, guess what I did? I ran it through the frameworks. And here's what actually kind of stood out. And I want to run through this. And of course, like it might feel a bit perfect, but only because I've been thinking about it or maybe justifying it backwards. But hear me out. Hear me out. And if you have a critique on the name, please let me have it. Okay, so first, like, let's go through small and scratch. I think spelling challenge, no traps, no ambiguity, no silent letters. I think the only thing that will trip people up is if it's a plural or not. Is it rectangle or is it rectangles, bro? So like that might trip you up. Copycat. So I think one of the reasons is yes, I didn't see people park on the domain. It doesn't feel like rectangles is taken up anywhere else. I did a quick search and was like, not yeah, not really there. I did find I guess rectangle supply, and it was like a framer marketplace, I believe. But yeah, like not too many crazy things. Restrictive, is it restrictive as a brand name? Well, if you just listen to rectangles, it could be like design specific, it could be tools, it could be philosophical, it could be cult, like, you never know, you don't really know what you're getting. So again, it has an umbrella vibe. Of course it may be more leaning to sort of the tactical and software side, if you think about it, but it also could be something else, right? Is it annoying? Three syllables, I don't think so. Have you heard of rectangles? People can say, I think. Tame. Okay. Yeah, I don't think, or it's probably one of the least tame in the entire process. I think it's bold, and I think it's a little bit absurd, slightly self-aware, and it feels a bit confident too. Like it's taking a stance, and the stance is fundamentals are very important. Is there a curse of knowledge? No, actually, it's a bloody shape, right? It's like the opposite of insider jargon. So explanation? No, not really. Hard to pronounce? No, I don't think so. Uh, and someone just said something again. I love the name, by the way. So curious. Wouldn't design native names may do more bad too sometimes, as this kind of reinforces the myth that designers aren't tending to business, often thinking, yeah, okay. Well, I am specifically talking to designers. So if I was speaking, like if it was like an agency name, um, geared towards like like tech founders, it wouldn't necessarily be rectangles. It could be because it's like the folks that are in charge of the rectangles, they might find that quite funny, but also they might not take it quite seriously. And I actually had an agency brand, and I called that Backlog because what are they familiar with? They're familiar with product backlog, or I've got so much to do. And the idea there of naming Backlog was like, don't worry, we'll take it off your hands. We will, you know, get you to inbox zero or backlog zero. So yeah, again, I'm trying to focus this media brand for designers. Hence, that's why I think this works. But yeah, I do know what you mean. Like most designers don't, maybe they don't understand business or whatever it is. But I don't think it damages the reputation amongst designers, because that's who I'm speaking to, and that is fundamentally who I'm serving. Then I wanna go for our scratch test as well. Um, oh, sorry, that was our scratch test. Let's go for our smile test. What's good about it? Yeah, I guess it's deceptively suggestive. Rectangles, like again, stripping away that complexity, fundamentals. Is it memorable? I hope it is, because it's like a, oh, backlog is a great name again. Thank you. Yeah, so the word is ordinary enough, but also it is designer's vocab, so like it's quite familiar. You don't need to think too hard to remember it. Imagery, okay, probably the best one in the entire shortlist. Like you can literally picture a rectangle, like that's fine, and then we can play with that in visual identity stuff. And then um, legs. This again is to be decided, but if I was to brainstorm here, it'd be like, okay, well, imagine episodes can take one simple thing and go really in depth on it, like potentially naming on this live stream. So it's like deceptively, again, like it's like, okay, you think it's simple, but it's not. Like one rectangle gets built on top of another, or you can call it a segment, like the frame or the grid. You can play around with industry news that you can call Z Index or whatever, a community space called the Artboard, or a live debate show called the Panel. Again, it's just spitballing here, but we'll see if legs actually make sense. And then emotional. I think this one's the really interesting one. So names that I looked at, not boring software. Love that. Hot ones, eating chicken wings and interviewing. Reply all, 99% invisible. Wait, but why? Those are like real sort of brand names out there. None of them are afraid to be slightly ridiculous, like hot ones. And that's amazing, right? So I hope Rectangle does that and sort of gives an emotion of like, you know, people smirk at it because it's slightly self-deprecating. It feels like unpretentious energy. Like I'm not, and if I was like the margin, it's like, who's this guy? And then finally like attracts more of like, oh, I get it. Yeah, cool. Than not. So that's it. And the last test, of course, like you can justify and reason and do all this stuff. But the last test that I did for all of the names, and that's why I didn't love those four that I showed, is I call it the own it test. Does it sound natural when you say it out loud? Say like, did you listen to rectangles? Have you seen rectangles? I run rectangles. I own rectangles. Like I think it's just slightly ridiculous and slightly hilarious, but it sounds interesting. So run your own like, you know, own it test or whatever that means to you. So the question is, you guys like the name? Drop a yay or nay and let me know. I've had a bunch of people say like it's interesting or I like it. Like so just keen to hear something, or at least like spam the chat. Someone on YouTube said definitely memorable. Holla holla holla. Uh can't imagine becoming an inside joke. Perfect. All right. Okay, cool. That's not it, guys. I've got like two other huge sections to do. But before that, I so in the story, okay, I ran it through a test, right? Great. Think I know what I'm getting. And I secured the URL of rectangles.fm. And I was like, cool. And I was like, .fm, maybe that is more media-y. And like, because you don't want it to be too obvious, but you don't also want it to be non-obvious at all, like completely abstract. So I decided to go with FM. And this is before I saw Acquired FM launch their website, and I was very happy with the decision that I went with FM because they are also like a really successful, like, well, they are a really successful live show, and we aspire to be that. And then of course, like there's like Riverside FM and all these other more kind of like tools or broadcasting tools, but FM is classic one. Also, typing it out in Slack, I wanted it to hyperlink straight away. I didn't want to, have to copy it all the time like you do with like dot design. And the next step is I, focused on the branding. Okay, wait. One follow up. One last follow up on the name. Isn't it common to both graphic design and product design? Yes. What, rectangles? Yeah, it definitely could be. It definitely could be. But again, there's no harm in that, right? That might give me legs to go wider uh, and serve creatives in general or something. So I have room. Again, we don't like, I guess there's a balance between like how specific you want your name to be. And I hopefully this name will last for a while. So it gives me legs to play with as well. It doesn't have to be like, it could be a brand just focused on graphic designers, or it could be other people that use rectangles in their work, post-it makers. So I think there's some room there. Okay, before I speak about the brand, I think we have been recording for an hour and 15 minutes of just me talking. So let me go rest my voice, grab a drink, and I'll be back with you in 3 minutes. And again, there's still more to go through. There's the branding. I want to show you everything, like the visuals. That's probably what you're here for, not for the name. But I thought that was a really interesting way to speak about that, and the website, and all of that stuff. And I want to show you, yeah, all of that. So stay with us. I'll be back in 3 or less minutes. What's going on? Thanks for being patient with me. Yes, that is a Cosmos countdown. Quite dramatic, right? Um, Rex says, what are you thinking of the visual identity? A literal rectangle, or some inside joke imagery? Okay, this is exactly what I want to touch on, and sort of thinking behind it. Um, sorry, I need sugar. It's kind of late. So, all right, without further ado, sorry, so funny. You guys are watching me eating this, eating candy at like 11 p.m. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the brand. Okay, so that was the thought process of, you know, reflecting and naming, and I knew I wanted a brand that, I knew I wanted someone to help me with the brand because again, I felt stuck for so long, and I was like, okay, well, I want someone who's an expert in the field, someone who has worked with people like me in the past, and someone that pushed me in my thinking. Okay, and I'd noticed this designer sort of kept showing up on my feeds, right? And this designer had worked with Dan Moore, a legend in the design system world and in the design world largely, on the redesign of his new sort of pricing design book and website. And I really like what they did there. And then Becca, a creator on YouTube, to rebrand her YouTube channel. Becca had left The Verge to be a solo creator, and I think it makes, I think she makes like the best sort of videos about tech. If you don't know who Becca is, so follow her. And yeah, so then I remembered that I DM'd a designer a while back because I was like really loving their work, and this designer was like, "Hey," again mentioned the designer that did work with Becca and Dan, and if you check the date, it says April 16th. Yeah, 2025. So literally an entire year for me to procrastinate. Don't judge me. And I was like, okay, cool. So without a doubt, their work has shown up a bunch of times. Okay, and the designer was Jonas. So I reached out, and shout out to Jonas for doing such good work. And I guess being on this side of the table of like a client in search for designers, a few things were apparent. Um, and I think this is interesting to share for designers looking for freelance work or any kind of work for that matter. Um, Quick thing. Congratulations on the launch, Chris. Can tell a lot of research and thought was put into it. Excited what's planned for Rectangle Z. Oh, thank you. Yeah, me too. Me too. And if you're here for a minute, I'll tell you around the visuals and how I thought about it. And this is probably the meat of it as well. Okay, so yeah. So and then let's just say you're a designer trying to get work and client work, and you're like, how do I do it? And I think I'll walk you through the decision process of why I sort of went with Jonas, and maybe that's helpful for like, oh, understanding what the client is thinking and saying. So I think you need to think about it like, if you can work with the same type of clients over and over again. So in my example, Dan and Becca were both creators, and that meant I could trust that I wouldn't have to explain myself to someone who didn't get what creators do, right? So like that was really important to me because like, well, why, if it was like a different type of brand, like an F&B brand that I was starting, then I might have chosen someone else who specializes in that, right? The second thing is, as a designer trying to look for freelance work, you need to do good work. I think this is, again, uh, the obvious, but you have to say it because why? People will naturally share it because they're proud of the output, right? People also recommend you because of the positive experience. There's actually no shortcut here. And yeah, like Jonas definitely has proved this. I think I've got some slides on this. Wait, hold on. Yes. Yeah, good work does travel. And I guess the third thing is Jonas was actually not super active online, but he is online. Like his portfolio is easily accessible. He has the socials with some content on it, and I can already get a sense of the work. And this is for those people who think, oh, the work will just speak for itself, like my work, right? But without it being readily available and for people to find it everywhere. So you've got to make sure that you can be found online so people can see that good work. So I think those are the three things that you really need to kind of like think about. It's like, can I work with the same type of clients and in specifically in an industry? Um, can I show up and do good work consistently so I get positive comments and referrals and stuff? And then can I be online so I'm easily discoverable, right? And guess what? Even before I hopped on a call with Jonas, I had already made up my mind to work with him. So it wasn't like a sales call. It was just like, just, just have a chat. And that was about it. And that's a level of trust you're aiming to build with future potential clients, right? Like they've already decided they want to work with you. So it's just a formality at that point. And of course, there were like definitely more designers on socials that are really active, that I would like in a heartbeat work with. And if you're serious about freelancing or scaling your agency, I would recommend you follow these guys, right? Adrian, Nick, and Fons. They've built massive amounts of trust on the internet and built like $1 million agencies off the back of that. So it's like really a masterclass of like, what does it mean to one, do good work, same type of clients, and be online, right? So I and Jonas committed to a brand sprint that we did together. He was available, and this got me really hyped because something I spent like a year thinking about, I could make meaningful progress in just 2 weeks. So I jumped at the opportunity to work with him, and I extracted my thinking and put together a brief. First is about setting context, right? Like again, I've been thinking about this clearly for a long time. So the mission, the goals, the audience, the content, the voice, like things I did, right? Things I cared about. Gave him all the context. Then I wanted to, of course, have him download, I guess, what I wanted, my taste, my inspiration. So I set a bunch of mood boards over and a lot of links. Then lastly, set expectations, right? And this is kind of like what was included in my brief. He didn't ask for this. I just did this, and here's what it looks like. Pretty standard, right? Just a slide deck, no biggie. Um, and then guess where, like, instead of playing that, how many of us out there really have the opposite from a potential client, from a product manager, or from someone asking you for design work, right? They're just like, yo, can you do this? Like, okay, cool. Where's the brief? What? And I don't think we're all sort of lucky enough to get someone who does their homework where they try to contact us for design work. So what should we do? We should 100% do the homework for them. And this is me doing the homework for Jonas. Of course, it needs to be based on your own context, problem, product. There's probably a lot of other stuff to include. But again, if you're trying to find more clients and clients that come back over and over again, this is step zero. I would not miss this step. Right? I think doing this step increases the project success rate and decreases the probability of miscommunication like dramatically. Okay. And I'll stop there for a sec. For good work to travel, you think initial free work is necessary? Um, Free work has its place. Just depends if you're lucky enough to do it in terms of like if you have other responsibilities. But yes, if you're going for like your shot and free work is the only way you get in, and the shot is pretty big, if the payoff's good, if you're trading learning for earning, I would 100% do free work. Yeah. Um, no, free work. I don't think free work is necessarily work that travels. I think good work is the thing that travels. Free work is just to get your foot in the door, but it's not. And again, you never know, right? You never know about this in terms of will you be able to do the free work? Because some people might just not even look at it. Because imagine if you go to like Christo and be like, "Hey, Chris, I want to redesign your logo for you, man. Here's a logo." He might never see that because probably a lot of people are just throwing themselves at him, and he's also a master at his craft. He'll probably critique it. So it really depends there. Okay, Rex Johnson on LinkedIn. Jonas has built a level of trust with you on content alone, or did you also check his portfolio and found something? Yeah. So one, he will trust not with his content alone. Yes, his content and portfolio matter. Definitely checked his portfolio, but also he actually had work that lived like in real life. It was live. It was like Dan's website was live. Becca's YouTube was live, and you can see what he did, like the before and after. So I think that, and he kept on coming up. Right, like first it was Dan, then it was Becca, then it was another designer I respected. So I think it's social proof, and the fact that you could see the result of the work is why I worked with him. I would love to. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely go look at Jonas's stuff. His portfolio's changed a little bit. He definitely had more stuff, but again, his LinkedIn, if I go back, is this. So Jonas Lupe, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, go look at his stuff. Okay, where was I? Mm, okay. Uh, Not all clients are as nice as you, Chris. Their take is why do I need to work or research? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And again, I think if you find the type of industry and clients you want to work with, that stuff is, you're really lucky and you can kind of double down. But yes, you're quite right. Like there's an element of luck there. I mean the deck. Oh, okay. Yeah, potentially. Let me like it was pretty rough anyway, but maybe. You can DM me privately and maybe I can share it. Let's see. All right, back to it. So I yeah, so I wanted something again, the deck itself. Yeah, so I wanted something like tactile, like a feeling of like real, something I can touch, like visuals that kind of communicated that. I want something industrial. Like I love the small details of like micrographics and there's something raw and clean about industrial look at the same time, which was super amazing. And then because uh, I think I feel more attracted to creator brands that do show face and emotion and something more human versus like purely like illustration focus. So these are kind of the mood boards I shared, right? The physical one, the industrial one, and the human one. And then Jonas basically comes back to me within like a few days with three like distinct directions, and I want to kind of walk you through this and thinking behind it. Which at first was based on that physical direction, right? Like that paper texture. If I can hover, yeah, like that paper texture right there, and the sort of the simple brand mark as well. It was quite interesting. I'm not certain about the photography direction here. Like it felt just a little bit sort of too cold. Then things another sort of execution of the same like is like the thumbnail direction here felt a little bit like a design agency thing. I felt like the word mark was a bit clunky, but again I like the sort of the details of this thumbnail of like, hey, it's paper like. There's some sort of custom elements there. It's a bit rough. It's a bit raw. So that's kind of what I liked about this sort of direction. Sorry that I'm just keep on clicking on stuff. Uh, then there was like the industrial film. I really like sort of the emotion of this photograph, right? It's like supernatural, has a flash element to it, like kind of a little bit old school vibes, nostalgic vibes. Love that. Um, then this is probably one of my least favorite logos. Just something just didn't feel right here. And it felt like more like with this motion blur, felt more like a photography brand. And I was like, huh, yeah. But on the same approach of industrial, he made these thumbnails, which I found very interesting. Obviously, this is how it looks like in a grid, but I really like the concept of like layers, made it super interesting. Kind of makes it a little bit more ownable in terms of a thumbnail because all thumbnails kind of look the same now. So this was interesting to me. Like, can we play around with this layering concept? And then his third and final thing, initial direction, and was human. This was super fun. This was really fun. Like the word mark, the word mark has like personality paired with a really fun sort of sticky note mascot, and of course you guys know my profile picture, so I kind of played on that, which was cool. The photography had a more vintage feel to it, and also um, this photography here, the mascot is also perching on the shoulder, kind of being an element within side. And then if I go to the next one, again, it's perching on the shoulder. Very, very interesting. Like this was really, really playful. Really playful. Yeah, really playful. And I still love the mascot. But I think this composition was really interesting. Like paired with the layers of the last thumbnail and the composition of this one. The reason I think composition is important with thumbnails is because, again, you're trying to work in a guest's face or a person's face, and titles, like big titles. So you can't like, I don't know, like you there's definitely a balance. I'm not a YouTube thumbnail expert, but for some reason me I just thought, hey, this can be a repeatable process of me making these thumbnails versus like designing like really custom ones from scratch for a show with the same format, right? So podcast thumbnails are typically more uh, less creative than say you're like Mr. Beast or whatever channel that does like these crazy videos. So I thought this was very nice as well. But again, this is really fun. Really like this direction, right? The human one. And again, I said that, you know, we took elements from each of the ones we liked and kind of merged it together. And no, the mascot did not make the cut. Although maybe one day it will make a comeback because I think it's really fun, right? But definitely things I liked for both. And then so we started like iterating a lot more. Yeah, love the energy of last one. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, and first we kind of like iterating on the word mark. And we're like, okay, we actually found two brands out there like OpenAI and Medium have this kind of feel that we want based on like tactility layers, texture, and also a human element to it if you just look at their branding work. So we're like, okay, cool. What would these brands do in terms of um, you know, the word mark itself? And then we, you know, compared lowercase, uppercase, sort of eliminating each one that didn't feel quite right, compared to like what we thought and what these brands would do at the same time, kind of like having that in our minds. And then, of course, we eliminated more, and then we started noticing these like little details of the actual type. Just be like, that feels kind of weird. And then we also said, okay, can we put it together with, the basis of a logo that we really like, and does it feel right in that setting? Because I originally wanted rectangles to be, just all lowercase, but some of the options didn't make sense for us. So we just went through these rounds. And then at the same time of like kind of like refining that logo, we went to explore the photography direction as well. Like I love this kind of vintage, natural, kind of taking a picture of like with a disposable camera. It's kind of old school, gives you this like super interesting feel, I think. And so I was like, how could I do the same? uh, like get the rawness of these photos, but the one constraint is I know I don't want to take a million photos everywhere I go. Like that's just not possible. So how do I do it with AI? And here's how we actually did it. Like we kind of mapped how it felt, like what we wanted to, and then we were like, okay, so here's actually the process of doing it. Again, I'm also trying to think of a system that my team can use. So we're like, okay, let's put this in a process like reference photo, portrait, and some styling guidance, right? And we actually put together like the flow of it. Start with the direction, have your JSON default styling kind of thing, generate an image, right? And then that should give you the vibe you're going for, the result. And then you pair that image with your portrait because you don't want your image to look like the starting direction. And then here's the result of something like that. Again, that's not me, that's AI, but you see the idea. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it gets it wrong. You just have to use different models and test different things. Uh, and that's kind of that feeling we wanted to. Yeah, there was a lot. But again, we only had a couple of weeks here. So we were tweaking on stuff and zoning in on the details. And then we looked at the what sort of materials we use. We even looked at like ink bleeds, because we want a tactile feel. And when something is printed, it's not perfect. There's always a bit of like layer blur, which uh, obviously in Figma, but ink bleeds in real life. And then we looked at like print glyphs and stacking and everything like that. Um, Jonas also put together examples of how those things would look in a real life setting. So, for example, you have your LinkedIn stuff, then you have an article, a newsletter, with little details like a stamp. Can't really see that here. Maybe I can click on that. That's actually kind of how the newsletter currently looks like, and a bunch of visuals. Like this is one of my favorite visuals. You see those little details and sketching ink bleeds. It's not quite um, fuzzy, but it's also not like really sharp. It's not doesn't look digital, and that's kind of the idea we went for. And of course, more examples of that too. This is like YouTube, and then the thumbnails of like here's the composition that I really liked, and with that styling photography, same here with the layers. So we're like, okay, this could be the show, this live stream that you're watching now, and this could be like a dedicated YouTube video, something that's like maybe a little bit more bold, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more brandable, and then of course like some merch ideas and associated things. What do I have next? And then, no, yeah, and all this is kind of like inspiration for like a designer's workspace in terms of like tactility. So that's kind of what we were like going for, like intentionally messy textures, print stuff. So a lot of nods to designers throughout the branding. And then Jonas like showed me this, which I thought was really cool. So it was a video he got his friend to make, and yeah, I thought it to be really cool, just like a real short clip of animating the logo, and I thought that was just like a really nice touch. Again, the intro video, if I play it again real quick, is kind of where I used that. So check it out. One sec. Yeah, and then that's work in progress. But if you know anybody that specializes in that kind of stuff, let me know. And since then, I've worked on the brand a lot more to sort of bring in my touches to it as well, and things I thought about. And the goal is really editorial, old school, 2000s throwback, indie skate mag energy kind of thing, right? Again, this brand is kind of like my baby at the moment, and I wanted to bring it back to the vibes where I grew up on. So I hope you start to see the vibes and the feeling. There you go. Gracias. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going for. So yeah, again, like visually, and a brand in general is always evolving. So as we different thinking, different things come in, but we want that energy. I think that's something that I've always been really attracted to. And we did all that work in 2 weeks basically. Like that's pretty crazy, right? So I guess I'll pause there in terms of like what you guys think about it. Um, and thank you for whoever's on YouTube, just going ham in the comments. Really love that. Don't know your name, but appreciate you. But yeah, any thoughts? And of course, I want to shout out to Jonas for the great work he's done, and he really helped me lay the foundation of the brand. But next up, if you don't have any thoughts, I want to speak about the website. This one's fun, and I want to get real into it. So it all started on, I don't know if you guys remember, Twitter Spaces, and specifically Ross Hatton's Design and Thrive episode 6, way back in 2023. This is where that story started. Sam, hi Sam. Thanks for showing up. And shout out Ross as well. A great facilitator and host of this Spaces. So yeah, it's pretty similar to like a live stream on LinkedIn, I guess, but audio only, and you have multiple people speaking. It's like your Clubhouse thing. You guys know what it is. Anyway, so it's then I came across this designer, and we had discussed on the Spaces, like either I was a speaker on there, and then he was a speaker. He asked a question, or I asked a question, something like that. But that's how I discovered this designer that I worked on the website with, and it's Ashwin. So again, shout out to Ashwin, phenomenal job. And like we were up till like 4 or 5 yesterday, kind of like hammering away at the website. And this is just before launch, obviously. So it's like, yeah, just appreciate work ethic, but also his crafts. The skills of the guy are phenomenal. You need to check out his portfolio. I'll show you something later. But basically, I texted him and I was like, "Yo, I want to rebuild UX playbook, because I basically built it on a crappy Squarespace website that I threw together in a week, right? Again, I was like launching. So I was like, no, I really want to do it. And then if you look at the date, was like 2024 Jan. Okay, that's nearly like 2.5 years ago that I first reached out to him. And it basically never happened, right? So when I was doing my 2-week brand sprint with Jonas, I was like, dude, I have so much momentum now. I think this is the perfect time to sort of reach back out to this designer that had already kind of spoke with and had good feelings, seen some good work online. And then, you might be asking, like, Chris, like, okay, cool, but why don't you actually just use like an agency or something? Like, why don't you just use the designers you mentioned before? Well, I mean, again, these guys do awesome, awesome work, and you can see it everywhere on the internet. But I wanted to work with like a single person, an individual, and not an agency owner. And there's a few reasons why. And I think you could kind of like use this as a pitch if you wanted to approach like founders working with you versus with an agency. It's just quicker feedback loops in general. There's no like project manager, or you're not communicating with someone in the middle, right? You're working with the actual designer, and that's what you should say. Like, I'm the one doing the work and communicating. There's no middleman, right? So there's not this like back and forth miscommunication thing. The other is like, um, the reason I didn't work with these guys, probably because I couldn't afford them. But anyway, we won't get into that. You're not really sure who you're getting. Like, these guys are agency owners. Yes, they are designers themselves, and almost certainly they do some of the design, but also pass it to someone else on their team. So it's like, well, okay, well, that's not who I'm working with, right? Like, I didn't want that kind of confusion. And then lastly, it was like timeline. I only had like, let's just say 5 weeks for the website, from literally first meeting till today. So we're working back from today, right? So plus, Ashwin has crazy, crazy skills. Just check out his portfolio website. Yeah, as you scroll, the things that he's done in this kind of like printing mode, it shows the websites he's done, at least the hero of it. And I just thought like that's like such a unique website. It definitely showed his skill, doesn't over communicate anything. I think it's just like reduction, and yeah, and that physical nature I thought to be really cool. And then he also reached on this recently worked on this project with Parker. And then if you just look at this, like the animations, the transition, there's lots of detail, even though it's not the style I'm going for, but I can see craft like oozing out of it. Check this out. That's pretty snazzy, right? Like, just on scroll. Yeah, like the movement, it's just so cool. And I think Ashwin told me that this project was also on a tight timeline, and he delivered, you know, this in a matter of, like maybe like 6 weeks or something. So I knew he could do it, right? Like, this is way more complicated than something I want. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, you're hired, and he was my guy for the job, and I'm so glad that I said, let's do it. And of course, I provided a specific brief, but this time, everything that we did from the brand foundation and all of that other stuff, but also specific examples of sections I wanted, because I really wanted Ashwin to sort of see all the things that I've been thinking about, how we've worked on these other things. And then I probably sent him probably like 100 links or something, and then with screenshots of things that I found very, very interesting. Solopreneurs need to have some crazy skills. That's pressure indeed. I mean, you got to start somewhere, but eventually you'll get there in terms of crazy skills. I don't think all solo freelancers need crazy skills. I mean, I was a solo agency owner and I didn't have crazy skills, right? It's cool. Yeah, Ashwin's definitely, yeah, I recommend Ashwin to anybody who wants to build their website in front of it. Yeah, absolutely. And Um, so again, like these kind of, again, like the hero section, the live stream section, the footer, like all this stuff, I was like very meticulously wanted Ashwin to download my brain as quickly as possible. So I did the homework for him. But that doesn't mean he didn't do any homework either. He came back with 3 distinct visual directions. And I kind of want to talk about these because these are really cool. Right? The first one is signal archives. It's really inspired by like archival artifacts, and it kind of matched like the nostalgic vibe we're going for, like receipts, labels, and stamps. So like the content is collected, tagged, and layered, and it creates like this depth hierarchy, and things feel more like contextual, nostalgic, a bit playful. So it's like informational, it's dimensional, it's archival. The website should feel like a living archive in this direction that he proposed. Then there was the encoded blocks sort of take, where rectangles basically carries lots of information and it's not just a shape. So you're actually playing around with the naming of the brand, but carrying that across your website. So layout is the visual signal, right? So you're repeating and you're you have variation that creates rhythm and hierarchy. So it's like it's symbolic, is rhythmic, is like kind of intentional in that sense. So it feels more like a system, and that's kind of what we or that's how Ashwin communicated that to me. And then there's the layered editorial, the final approach, which is kind of like separating the structure into two different like layers, if you will. The background is clean, is editorial, like maybe grid driven, and then the foreground is like that tactile, bold element. So it's tactile, expressive structure, feels more like modern, right? And like a modern media company. And to be honest, I liked all of them. Where do you find these amazing designers when you're on a time? Well, you just got to be looking out for them, dude. Like yeah, like that's what you just got to be doing. Like I just can't help but find people with awesome work, right? Eric says, love the rectangles brand. It's really fun. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Pretty appreciate it. Eric's just like Grace. There's a lot of emphasis coming back to brand work lately. Every founder I talk to is desperately looking for it. Well, I've got some good people to refer to. And yeah, I'm also kind of, thinking more about this lately as well. So yeah, it's fun times, man. Brand is super fun. But anyway, I like all of the sort of iterations that Ashwin showed me. I felt like archival was the foundation, adding different elements on each, like the clean background from the layered editorial or the expressive like shapes from the encoded blocks, playing around with those shapes. I was thinking, what's the best way to sort of show you guys now 5 weeks of work, hundreds of iterations, like literally, and that I and Asher was up to like 5 a.m. last night. And I think the only answer is this. But there's a big but. And if you'd like me to jump into Figma and to walk you through like the beast of a Figma file, hopefully it loads, spam the chat with burger emojis. The more burger emojis, the better. Our target here is 50. And let me just put the burger emoji up. If you show me lots of burger emojis, I will jump into Figma immediately now, and I will show you everything that we did and the thinking behind all of that. And I'll give you some time for that as well. Okay, I'm going to disappear. If I don't, I'll disappear, grab a drink again. And if I don't see 30 burger emojis, then you won't see me jump into Figma. Okay, I'll be back in, let's say, 3 minutes. Oh, this is a lot of burgers, guys. Okay. Hungry for burgers now. Yeah, me too, dude. It's like 12 o'clock right now. I want to report spam. Okay, I see a lot of burgers. I mean, I can show you guys, but you can guys could probably see all the burgers flying in. So the Figma file is real. You guys love a bit of Figma. Okay, all right. Yes, I get it. I get it. All right. Okay. Okay. Don't get blocked, guys. Don't get blocked. LinkedIn is gonna um person blue ears. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's jump into Figma. Hopefully, this doesn't break everything. So let's move to this. I will stop sharing here, and I do want to say that this is the longest live stream I have like been on, and I'm still feeling quite awake. Okay, cool. So you guys can see that, right? Maybe this is better. So I'm a little tiny person in the corner. Okay, so remember when Ashwin gave me the 3 directions? I'll just go through that again so you guys know. Is signal archives, encoded blocks. Signal archives is like layers of like tactility, and it's more like archival. Then it's encoded blocks, so using rectangles as shapes, as meaning, as symbols, and then layer editorial. It's more clean, it's more structured, but there's still some expressive elements to it. Okay, different from the background. Okay, so those are kind of the things. This is what his initial exploration looked like. I'm not going to go into it. I want to show you the first iteration of the ones he wanted to share. Like this was quite interesting. Like this is like very I guess kind of the third approach where it's like kind of media based, looks kind of like a newspaper. So yeah, a bit tactility, the paper sort of feeling, but yeah, it was okay, it was cool. Then this was the included blocks. Crystal break all his previous records today. I think so. You're a genius, bro. Your newsletter helped me get a dream job. Oh, dude, that made my day. Oh my god, really? That's so cool. Super happy for you, man. That yeah, that's amazing. And I will break all the records today. And yeah, so this one was interesting because yeah, this is encoded blocks, and like I thought this to be quite interesting in terms of like just the raw like print glyphs that, and if you add motion to it, it could potentially be like really interesting, right? Like very playful and kind of going with the brand as well. Like definitely some personality there. Then we had this execution of like the folder. So this is the archive with layers in the background. You even have a print mat, sorry, a cutting mat. And I was like, oh, that's cool, right? And these tabs as well, like that little detail. Um, then we had this, the cleaner sort of separate background, and the print glyphs with also some texture. So this is definitely more of that like layered editorial mixed with signal archives. And then this is more standard, I would say. And yeah, again, I love these kind of like details. Um, then sort of a different iteration on that, moving to like that folder sort of metaphor again, with some like layers. Again, a little bit more standard in terms of website. And then this is the one that I really liked. Ignore the orange. This is just how we marked it. But because it was like, it was a mix of like interesting things, mostly signal archive as the main sort of hero of like layered texture, sort of interesting things going on, right? A bit random, but then the clean sort of editorial, where it's like, hey, you know where the nav is, it's quite clear, it's separate from the background, but you're really just focused on like the objects in the foreground. Really liked that. And and of course, I think I could improve, like we could improve this and some of the elements, but the concept was basically there, right? Third one feels like our interface should be a long time ago. The third one, like this one, yeah, like there's definitely a thinking from my side where it's like, yeah, I want something that, the revival of the old and the revival of the tactile is like kind of it's what we're missing. Maybe it's another trend, maybe it'll stay, but like I just kind of like that feel, right? So these were basically, I guess, 7 iterations on the directions, and he was just playing around, right? This is obviously not the final thing, but we were just playing around with what conceptually is the direction we want to go through. Like this is too standard, I think, and like this one is interesting too. But fundamentally, we were like, okay, can we go down that rabbit hole of this? Right? Looks too busy in a good way. Yeah, like I think I also wanted it to be bold. I didn't want something so safe and that I would regret and be like, why didn't we just like push out the boat a bit? Like, why are we playing safe now? Again, this is only Figma we're talking about, right? We haven't built it, so we can always scale back if trouble ensues. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so this was the first iteration. Then, yeah, then I want to walk you through his actual stuff. And then I was like, okay, we're going down the direction of the folder, but what are some elements, right? So then we had these like sort of film wraps and stuff, and he sort of took this is how I don't want to walk you through his thinking because I think it's cool. Like again, taking like some inspiration from yes, my mood board and some tactile stuff, and then kind of going on from here. Like okay, a slight update of like okay texture, and then adding the copy that we wanted, and then it's like, oh, how do we bring this sort of element into it, or maybe some stickers, maybe ha- uh, like having fun. Then he explored like, okay, this kind of like wrapping on top, which I thought was kind of cool. And then, of course, looking at the feedback and just kind of messing around with like, oh, could this work? And stickers and stuff, and then keeping going on. Oh, what about a plastic wrap on top? Right? Like, would that make it feel, too cheap? Okay. If it's in an item, what about like, this kind of wallet? Can this be somewhere else? And how does that feel? And then what happens if we made one of the items like a guest on our show, but inside it, right? And then put her in the back. Like again, these are like artifacts that we wanted to show, uh, and archival stuff. Like this is a thumbnail, for example, right? With and things like that. So like again, putting elements in. Then we're like, what about a folder? Like having the metaphor of folder, things coming out, so it's quite clearly archival. Quite clearly, like it's in something, and potentially you could interact with the layers, right? They can swap in and out. Again, like motion is coming out here just by us like brainstorming. And it's like, okay, what about it actually? This is the front page, and then it being the other stuff being inside the folder, and that's the folder. A little bit more cleaned up version, I think, added the receipt, and then I guess he thought of, hey, what about a YouTube video being or a live stream being actually a cassette? The metaphor of like playing a cassette, like that's there. How would that look? Again, just kind of going through, and he just went through this like really interesting exploration. Like he didn't delete anything, and he just duplicate, and added one thing, moved things around, and that's kind of like a very interesting way of working. And that's I guess dissimilar to potentially the way I work, but I just kind of liked just looking at his file for some reason, right? Then yes, adding this kind of what do you call it? Like old school folder that we used to use, right? Like I don't know if anybody uses that anymore, like filing like plastic or whatever. And again, just kind of moving things around, changing the color of it. You can see it here, and then keep on kind of like pushing it out, changing, I think, the texture as well here. These look very similar. Color, and then adding something like that. Remember we spoke about that encoded blocks. Could that be something that floats, like a little detail again, adding to the tactility, um, and then keep on going. And I think on one execution he added print the glyphs as like a indicator for the navigation, which I appreciated. Um, oh, this is cool. So this concept was like, okay, cool. You see this? This is like, okay, layers because of the shadow, but what about layers that kind of similar to photography, where you're taking a picture, the object in front of you is clear, but everything behind you is kind of blurry, right? Depth of field. So that's kind of one of the ideas we had, because this also matches with our branding in terms of we wanted things to feel real, and that, like, some of the things we have on socials is like it's blurry on purpose because it basically communicates like ink bleeds. So it's like, can we take the real into the digital with something like depth of field? So you almost inherently know that that stuff is in the back. And I think this is what's so fun about just design in general and playing around with interfaces, kind of using that like real world, bring that real world in, different color. How do we play with this? Like the call to action, because this is like quite key for the website. And then playing with different graphics. Again, this is like the encoded blocks where shapes mean something. This execution here. So again, we're kind of going through all of the. This is so this is like the 41st iteration, like, and he's still going, right? Just these little minor tweaks that kind of means something in his head, and he's just like going down that rabbit hole of minor iterations. And okay, so he stops at version 48, which is so cool. Okay, and this is literally just the second iteration, right? And he actually just shows me direction. Okay, love these explorations. I like how he's adding simply with little, yes, exactly. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like sometimes one thing can push it off, one thing can make it feel like completely different, but you've got to like explore, right? So let yourself kind of like go down that rabbit hole. Something just happened. But anyway, okay. I'll keep going. Okay, so again, the initial direction is here. How long did it take to come up? I don't know. I think he gave like maybe like 2 days. Like we had like rounds of feedback every like 2 or 3 days. So like twice a week we would either chat or feedback or something like that. Right. That's how long. And did he show 7 explorations to you or the final 7 ones directly? No, so he originally showed me 7 iterations at the beginning, just as a direction, but we did so many rounds. So this is just how many rounds? Let's count. This is probably the second, probably I guess the second major round of feedback before, yeah, out of like 5 potentially, maybe more, right? Um, Curious if there were explanations around some other visual direction. Yes, well, because what we wanted to do and nail first was like the overall concept of how the website would work. So therefore, we started with like what would the structure be and what would the hierarchy be and how would it function? And then we kind of like iterated on like the functionality, the feeling, the assets. So even with this, the final one that you're going to be seeing is actually a little bit different. Well, I would say a lot different because we added stuff and took away stuff. So I want to show you that. And for the review, so this was the initial direction that we picked, right? I say, okay, what about this? Like adding things, depth of field, uh, yeah, this sort of call to action, different color thing, and stuff like that. And then uh, we actually went quite deep on artifacts showing because again we wanted to do the signal archives and we were like, okay, how do we, like, the things that we show are really important, but what are the things we're showing? Okay, so here's the exploration that we discussed. So it's like, okay, well, can we do like trading cards of like people, and that's basically like a guest being on the show. Here's a unique trading card that represents the guest, for example. This was kind of cool. Or I really liked, like, what about a VHS? Like, because again, it says something like video. So like VHS is kind of interesting. Again, and I wanted some exploration around this kind of front page, if you will, like that piece of paper. And wasn't really happy with the one we had. So it was like, okay, well, could it be a bit bolder? Can it be a little bit more editorial, a bit minimalist? Like, here's a newspaper version. Here's a very interesting version with like kind of grids, and then can we play with the logo? Uh, and then of course he went hard on other directions where he's like, what about stamps? What about like if the dude was a stamp? And like Tommy here, what if Tommy was a playing card? And different styles or like watercolor based on that. And we just went to a lot of different places and this is what he showed me. He was like, okay, here's some execution on the front page of like that piece of paper going in. Uh, and yeah, these are pretty cool. Right? These are pretty cool. And some of the inspiration that we had was that we looked at kind of like, what does a book cover mean? Can we pull back some of that industrial look, micrographics back into like signal archives? Like we don't want it to be pure nostalgic. We want some kind of rawness to it through like industrial vibes, right? And we looked at a bunch of stuff there. And then we're like, okay, well, if we took the live streams and we made it physical, does a VHS make sense? What about, if you hover it, maybe it can slide out? Okay, that's just the name. And then what about a little sticker? What about a floppy disk? That's old. That's old school. Pretty cool execution here. What about a vinyl? Right? It has that space for the visual as a cover, but it's a vinyl. Or what about actually being printed on a CD? This is really cool. I still want to do something with the CD thing. Okay. And then it's like, okay, what about like letters? How does it look? How could we make each, I guess, takeaway or newsletter or something that's physical that communicates it? And I want to show you the final thing, I promise, but I promise there's a payoff. But I just love kind of what we did, and then even thought about, oh, can we use the micrographics that we designed for like physical tags, like yeah, like care labels and stickers and all that stuff, right? So here's the versions that we reviewed. Uh, yeah, this is the versions that we reviewed. That was just a rough thing. Then actually I put together some items because we were going so deep on the items and we kind of forgot about websites for a bit because we're like, no, the items will kind of make the visuals very good. So these are kind of the things I put together. And then he obviously went crazy on just like iterating on that stuff. But I basically shared my explorations with him. And I was like, look, here's what it looks like. And it's sometimes it's just cool to see things next to each other to see like, is it kind of annoying? Do you want to see it next to each other? So like this is like I guess like landscape wise, and then this is like portrait versus landscape. Kind of portrait works better here. Definitely without the text works better. Then what do these look like together? Again, did a lot of explorations on how it looks on the folder, etc. etc. If we stack them, like kind of messy. And then you know, kind of again revisiting the website once we're kind of locked in, especially the hero section, because that's kind of what we were looking at. It's like what feels right. Like if we say we know what items, is it this with the print glyph and the depth of field, even though that's in front? Is it something like this? Or is it something like this with a really bold thing? And we went on and on and on. Um, and the last thing I would like to show you guys is what the final product is. I think if you've stuck around for this long, I think it's time to show the final product. Okay, all right. Let me stop sharing this, and then we're going. All right, here we go. Are you ready for this? Are you still around? Drop a thumbs up in the chat if you're still actually if there's still people on the stream. I think there is. Here it is, guys. And I'll refresh it for you so you can see it come in. This is the final product. This is what I'm super, super happy to share. Okay, yeah, there we go. And I just kind of walk you through the reasoning behind this. So first, let's look at the nav. Cool. We have the word mark and then each individual section. So live stream, newsletters, takeaways, community, and from Chris. Where Designer is unstuck, that's a working sort of headline, but that's kind of the promise of the website. We of course have our partners Pitch and Mobbin, and it's cool because when you first come in, the layers kind of appear, right? So it's messy, it's in your face, it's loud, and guess what? Everything has an interaction, and it just feels very alive, right? And this is, by the way, where you enter your email address. And immediately it slides to the bottom right. And we're scrolling and we get to our first section called the live stream. And this actually floats on scroll. And the cool thing is, and this is a tiny detail that we worked on, which is like when the item is focused, the copy comes out and the vinyl just pokes its head out. And then once you hover, then it starts playing. And you can click on that, and obviously it reveals the video that we want to show in the background, and you can click off. But if you just look at this interaction of all the items, like if I'm not hovering over it, it's just telling you. And this is obviously like, Tommy Gecko's on taste, play, and storytelling. Sorry, Tommy Gyoko. Pronounced that wrong. And we keep going. So this is that horizontal scroll effect. Same with this and Aneta on how to build a unique portfolio. Again, open up in a modal so you can play that directly. And this is still here. We're using sort of rectangles and the kind of a blueprint of the logo of the square and circle as that. We're going down and we come to the first like newsletter and the style of the newsletter. These are like postcards. The whole point is I want to feel like I am writing to you and it's about this subject and it's Chris as the stamp. Of course, there's interaction. And then as you scroll, it comes over and it's stacking on top of each other. As I scroll, the newsletter disappears. But if you click on one of them, it's a modal and it's exactly like the newsletter you would get. This is a real issue that I wrote. And let's keep going. Then we come to our takeaways. We spent a bunch of time on the takeaways because we couldn't really figure out what it was going to look like. but we wanted to take that the same sort of front page metaphor and put it in here. So these are basically extractions of the live stream. So this one, imagine this one, but in an email format. And yep, we can hover over it and then it's coming in. And we wanted to highlight 3 live streams about how to be the best designer, how to measure ROI design, and writing case studies. So if we click on that, it's the same. It's an email format of that lesson. But it's cool. I really like kind of like doing this. Yeah, great question. Actually, I found performance to be fine. I actually wanted something more than just a standard like quick loading website that is really clear. I wanted it to be more of a showcase, and I think designers really appreciate that. So I don't mind something like this. I think it's better, and I'm not looking again to like sell a product. I'm not converting people to buy stuff. If you're thinking about conversions, maybe, but I am not really that. Yeah, so I don't care, and that's a good thing about doing your own projects. Then from our community, always want to show folks from our community. So again, so these little cards with them as watercolor and things they said about the show and the newsletter. And then finally, a note from Chris, which we end kind of the website on. It might look a bit jittery on your end, but I promise you it's pretty smooth. And then, yeah. And then if you click the rectangles logo, you go back up to the top, or we can click live stream and we can see that animation kind of come in. But that's basically what we spent 5 weeks on. And literally, we've only it's live now, so you can actually go to rectangles.com. Sorry, rectangles.fm, and have a look at it. So pretty cool, pretty cool, and yeah. And I think I want to finish something like lastly before I kind of talk about how you get the freebies, because you've guys been here for so long and you've been awesome just hammering on the chat. So yeah, it doesn't look jittery. Okay, cool. Yeah, lastly, I want to take a sip of water, and of course, thank you. If there's any thoughts, feedbacks, would love to hear it about for the website. But yeah, go on it, have a look at it. Rectangles with s.fm. And you can see it live and play around with it, play on it on mobile. If there's a bug, tell me, we'll fix it. I'll be jumping right in there. But yeah, just really want to finish on talking about like what's next. Like after all this, what is next? What is next for rectangles? What's the goal here, and sort of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think that's important. So as I went through this process, I thought about a lot of things, but it helped me to sort of come to this mission that I've decided for myself, which is help designers shape their craft, careers, and calling. And with craft, it's about hard skills, knowledge, and encourage self reliance from stories, tactics, helping folks kind of answer the question, what do you want to do? Right? Like sometimes you don't really know. Design is such a big field. So you can specialize in one thing, like framer, or even specific tool or a part of the process like prototyping, especially now with AI. And then for careers, soft skills is really important, plus navigating like the workplace environment and showing folks how to build leverage, because that stuff doesn't get taught. There's plenty of hard skills, craft stuff, but the soft skill and career stuff, yeah, that stuff you just kind of learn on your own, or you have great mentors that can give you that sort of guidance. And really, the careers part is like helping designers answer, what do you want to be known for, right? Like really having that stamp on your career. And then finally, calling, right? The last C, the mission, the life goals, and stuff like that. And really give people courage to fail, like I have over again and again, and tackling these questions of like, what what should we be leaving behind, or what do you want to leave behind? And that's a huge thing to ask anybody, but not saying there's any like right answer or easy answer, but at least having the courage to ask that question along the journey, like I always do. So craft, careers, and calling, that's kind of my mission. And rectangles is going to be a big part of that. A genuine place that's useful on the internet for designers, right? A safe space to discuss like real struggles, like I did earlier. If you're here for the good part of half an hour of how I was blocked, and a sort of a group of people that feel connected to each other, like can joke, can laugh, and all that stuff. So in short, my goal with rectangles and the question of what's next is to build designs group chat, like the chat we have going on here, and I'll get to some of your questions later. And it's not actually a group chat, although it could be. But like at the moment, in terms of group chat, I mean it in a metaphorical way, and it's not a physical Discord or Slack group. But for some reason, group designs group chat sums up the sort of feeling, the emotion, the energy, the vibe of a imaginary place I want to build with rectangles through the newsletter, through the live stream, through content and media in general. And I wonder if that resonates with any of you, because it could be really confusing. So I want to make sure it resonates with the folks watching. Designs group chat. That's what rectangles is. And does that make sense? So I'll pause there and I'll have a look at some of these questions. How do you decide on the colors and the complementary colors as this overall invokes a different feeling? Yeah, this was hard. Like of course we took inspiration from a designer's workspace for the original colors for the brand. Like the teal kind of like invokes or is inspired from like the blue screen, and also the plants in a designer's workspace. Then the orange is kind of like the bolder highlighter color. And so we thought about all these colors. But again, it's kind of like if you do it enough times, you kind of get a sense of what goes what. You can use like color theory and color psychology. I'm not an expert at that. I'm fairly vibes driven here. So yeah, pretty very cool. Yes, Vicky, I will post a recording. Check out the YouTube channel. Can someone link uh, the video that you're watching now for Vicky on LinkedIn? If you're watching on LinkedIn, like for YouTube, like just drop a link. I can show it. But yes, these are recorded. Just search me on LinkedIn, and you can find the YouTube channel somewhere. Or just go to rectangles.fm and head to the YouTube link. Yeah, actually, I think I can do better than that. I think it's rectangles.fm/YouTube. And I'll just flash that on here so you know what I'm talking about. I will all channels. Okay. So this is, if you want to, Vicky, if you want to find a YouTube channel, yeah, rectangles.fm/YouTube. That will take you straight to the YouTube channel. Hit the live button, and it's gonna like it'll be recorded right after this stream. So cool. Mhm. All right, you can see it on screen now for the folks who, yeah. Okay, great. Soft skills is tough, especially working remote. Yeah, exactly. I've been a remote designer on and off since like hybrid, at least since I started in design in 2015. So I've been actually uh alone for most of it, and turns out I prefer that. But yes, you still need a healthy amount of soft skills. Um, can it be though? Oh, this is about the group chat. I'd love to connect with you on a casual Discord call sometime. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I want to build it metaphorical first, but yeah, who knows? We might have meetups instead of Discord, or we might do more live streams like this. We might do ones where we invite you on and have a casual chat, but we'll record it so other people can take advice. So again, there's lots of ideas. And it does make sense, Chris, and would love if it can actually be a physical group. Yeah, I know. Group chats. The thing about group chats is you got to keep it alive. So definitely want to keep rectangles alive with designs group chat. And maybe it stems from a group chat. Maybe it can be WhatsApp. Maybe we can get like hundreds of thousands of people in there. That would be really fun. Yeah. Thank you for flashing the link to Vicky. Yes, this will be recorded. It's a long one, Vicky. So be patient. But yeah, one thing. Okay. So with all of that said about rectangles becoming designs group chat, not physical not an actual group chat at the moment, but the feeling, the energy, the vibe, and the imaginary place I want to build for you guys and for all the designers out there. I can't do this alone, and I need a bunch of help. And this is where I need your help. And in return, you'll get something too. So earlier I said something about free resources I made that I wanted to share. So if you can spare 5 minutes of your time after this, and it's going to end pretty shortly, to help me with my mission of building designs group chat, as a thank you, you get the portfolio presentation deck, the design agency sales deck, one that I close clients with, and a personal brand blueprint so you can build your online presence, right? If you're looking for clients and stuff. So all of that is free, and it took me like literally hours and hours to build this stuff, and it has detailed step-by-step examples of of everything you need inside. It's kind of like a self uh, standing guide, if you will. And again, free to download, but you just have to fill in the survey and it'll be on the last button and you can just submit and then you'll show and you can download and do whatever, like, duplicate, use it for yourself. Again, scan that QR code or just go to rectangles.fm/survey and you can fill it in. Again, if you're so inclined, you can also sign up for rectangles.fm at rectangles.fm so you can get the recap of this in written format. And I also share that resource and the survey links as well. If you're like, oh, I'll do it later. Okay. So you just, yeah, sign up there and I'll send out this email. But yeah, single link, 5 minutes, and that shapes what we build next. So this is cool. I hope this group chat calms the panic that AI. Yeah, me too, dude. And I think it will. I think everybody's kind of in the same boat here, and we want to, yeah, make folks feel better about yeah, what's going on. Don't worry, your jobs aren't, in yeah, your jobs aren't going away anytime soon. That like there's a reason I just didn't use AI to build everything, like from branding to website, because I believe in what we're doing. And I think you can feel it when things have a human touch. And yeah. But anyway, please go to their rectangles survey if you are so inclined. Really appreciate that to help us build what we're building. And before we end, I also want to thank today's sponsor, Pitch, for the longest live stream ever and the announcement of Rectangle. Couldn't have done it without you. And to show your support for this channel and me and the things that we're doing, we'll love you can scan this QR code to check out Pitch Agent, which just launched today. If you're a designer, your decks should look like they've made them. And not every other AI sort of generated deck out there does help you do that. And Pitch Agent starts from your real templates and makes them custom layouts or with your custom layouts. So your decks are always on brand by default. Plus you can chat with your deck, ask questions, get feedback, turn it into follow-up in seconds. And it's built into the Pitch workspace. If you used it, it's absolutely phenomenal in terms of managing your presentations. So you can collaborate, share, and see how people engage with your decks. This is actually one of the coolest things that that doesn't get spoken about a lot, which is like when I share a presentation, I want to see how many people like looked at it. Like, did they look at it? Which slide took the most time, and which slide got the most attention fundamentally? And pitch is like one of the reasons I use them is because of that feature alone. If I share it to public, I want to know, hey, like, is it actually getting views or what's up? So try pitch free, scan the QR code, or head to pitch.com. Oh, I have a question coming in. Where do these live stream and rectangles diverge? That's a great question, man. And honestly, rectangles is the live stream. Rectangles is the newsletter. Rectangles is the content that's coming out, and rectangle is, at least aspirationally, um, Design's group chat. So this is in itself part of that mission of being Design's group chat, because I'm chatting to you, you're chatting to me. It's kind of real time. I'm not texting you, but you know, nonetheless, I'm still here. So it's actually one and the same. And I'll be remiss if I didn't say the next live is June 3rd. I believe that's next week. And it's specifically around how to run a design subscription. So again, it's like an agency, but with a retainer, and the clients get a fixed rate if you're not familiar with that. And it was very popular a couple of years ago. And this designer I have on, 20 plus years in design, but still going strong, switching from like per project model to design subscription model. And we'll be speaking about how to stop selling your time, how to get clients, and how to run a solo studio. All things that maybe you would like to do yourself, or at least learn how to do through the eyes of someone who's actually done it. And of course, all your questions. Again, go check out rectangles.fm. I'm gonna not gonna say .com. Go check out rectangles.fm. It's literally like I literally pressed the publish button in Framer just before this live stream. Jump on the list. If you haven't, you'll get all the resource that I mentioned and the recap of this very, very long live stream. And I have a lot planned for rectangles, right? When Sam, you asked, where do live streams and rectangles diverge? This is it, dude. No, there's actually a lot more, Rex. But anyway, there's I think this is about the third hour. Lots to plan for rectangle, the visual change, but also the clear directional change. But so much. But thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a blast. I think I've just lost my voice now. But yeah, I want to see you soon, guys. And until next time, bye.